Our next speaker is co-founder and CTO Yulu. I'm talking about Naveen Dachuri. Let's hear from him as he shares the cloud adoption experiences of Yulu. And to moderate this discussion, we are joined by Amit Kumar, partner KPMG. So over to you, Amit.
So, very good afternoon, Naveen. Thank you so much for speaking to us for the Economic Times Cloud Innovation Summit. Glad you could take time out from your valuable schedule.
Good afternoon, Amit, and thanks for giving Yulu the opportunity to present their views and thoughts.
Just to get the introduction started, Naveen, why don't you tell our viewers about your organization and your role at Yulu Bikes?
Sure. So basically, I'm heading technology at Yulu. We started Yulu 4 years back, and since then, me and my team I started working on various aspects of technology. And then all these technologies are powered by cloud. It is not just a pure software-based company. Our whole business premise revolves around vehicles, electric vehicles. And to make that happen, we do a lot of innovations on the battery side, IoT side, charging system side, and things like that. And we use technology, especially when it comes to ML and AI, to improve the usage of the vehicles as well as to reduce or improve the operational efficiencies.
Great. Thank you so much, Naveen. Just to introduce myself, everyone, this is Amit. I'm one of the partners with KPMG Lighthouse team, which is the entire cloud data analytics arm of KPMG, and based out of Bangalore. So quickly to get to the conversation, Naveen, you mentioned that you guys have adopted cloud data analytics. So how's been your journey to the cloud? If you could talk about from your initial days as to how did you settle on a specific cloud and why?
Sure. So again, I have been in this industry for more than 2 decades now. I have seen both on-prem as well as cloud. But especially when you're talking about startup world, right? The biggest thing with the startup world is every startup, they want to focus on solving or putting the technologies in place to make their startup work, right, efficiently. And for that, cloud is a very good platform. And that is how we also started venturing into cloud. Along with just having a cloud solution, for us, it was also important that our data resides in India, right? And when we started like 4 years back at that time, AWS was the only provider that had a data center in India, in Mumbai region. We were looking at other cloud players, but AWS was the best one for us because of multiple reasons. It had a lot of services, pre-built services, which basically gave us a head start in implementing a lot of technologies that were required to run our business, right? And that is why we chose AWS. In the current scenario, there are way more number of clouds, and most of these clouds are providing most of the services that we are working with. So if any new player is going to start now, they will have more options compared to what we had back there. That was one thing. And second thing, as I mentioned before, for us, fastest to market was the most important, right? And to make that happen, cloud played a very significant role. We started using what people call it as software as a service in these cloud networks or environments. And then slowly, as our volume grew, we started building our own systems in the cloud itself. How that helped us is first reducing the cost that you incur to manage and maintain this cloud infrastructure. Second thing is quickly testing out any of the new implementations that you want to try it out, right? In 2 decades or a decade back, if you had to try something out, it always used to start from the procurement cycle. You first procure your assets, you ensure that you have been provisioned the right set of assets or the infrastructure to run that trial, you test it, and if it works fine, it is okay. If it does not work, you again start from scratch. In the cloud world, this has completely reduced, right? So anything that used to take a month or two in olden days, now it takes like hardly a week for you to test anything out. And if it is working for you, you immediately push it out to production.
And how was it? How was this world different from the the traditional technology on-prem based systems? And how different was working on the cloud for your team? Or were you always born in the cloud and never had any footprint on-prem, Naveen?
So I was never born in the cloud, but a lot of my developers, young developers, passionate developers, they had seen the world of cloud. For me, the biggest difference, again, like I was involved in setting up data centers for some of the big agencies like FAA back in US. One of the biggest thing is you have to go through this process of procurement, right? So one says you first of all you have to get approval for something. Second thing is then you put in an order to procure those assets. Then it takes its own good time to get the assets in place, right? And then you do whatever you want to do, right? And while all this process is going on, right, the biggest thing is you have to be very mindful and cognizant about whether you're spending the dollars properly or not, because over procurement also leads into a problem when it comes to the ROI, right? And under procurement also results in losing a business, right? So that was the biggest differentiator when I look at the traditional on-prem versus a cloud-based scenario. And adapting the cloud was very easy. Again, as I mentioned, most of our team members were young and passionate, and they had only seen this cloud world, right? So they were familiar with how to use these technologies. The second most important when it comes to adaptation of this cloud is they provide a very good support also, right? And everyone by default pays for that support. So you can actually reach out to the cloud experts, and they will help you out in solving your problem that you're running into. Traditional world, going back, it's the same thing, like you build your own team. Only support was mostly available for the specific things. When you're saying, oh, you're buying a software, then they will also have challenges in trying to debug things because you have built your own systems now, right? Whereas in the cloud, everything is structured, it works the same way, right? So resolution of those problems also is faster when it comes when you compare it to the traditional worlds.
So
um,
if I could summarize, Naveen, specifically the on-demand compute capability, the ability to try things faster, ability to leverage technical capability or technical support from the cloud vendors, are these these were some of the major drivers for you to choose AWS cloud at that time, correct?
for us the cloud was the major thing, right? And AWS we chose only for the reason like they had a data center in India.
Understood. Now, if you had to go back into some of the business, value that you got because of your decision of in going to cloud, could you could you define or could you elaborate for our viewers some of those value that you reaped in last 4 years because of making that decision?
First thing is faster to market, right? So we have, like, if you look at our whole tech ecosystem, we have apps, we have IoT systems, we have charging systems, and most of these systems talk to our servers, right? And we use this data or information to provide a better experience to our users and also to improve our efficiency or the business growth itself, right? Or augment our business growth. With the predefined services, software as a service or platform as a service that any of these cloud providers provide, they help us in, again, implementing these faster, quicker, right? Second thing is we never worried about storage, to be honest, right? And when you're looking at our business itself, we have IoTs which keep pumping a lot of data. We have applications where we try to collect a lot of user information, especially when it comes to location, because that is our primary mode of running our operations, right? So, and not only that, we get information from our batteries because we are running electric vehicles. We have few sensors deployed on a vehicle, we get that information. And it is, when you're looking at the volume of this data, it is huge, right? Traditional world, you always think about, okay, how do I process this data? How do I store this data, right? Oh, I'm running out of storage space, right? How do I now increase my? When you're looking at the cloud, you need not worry about it. It is just a click of button. You go there, add more storage to it, you add more processing power to it. Tomorrow, if I want to switch from a lower performance machine to a higher performance machine, again, it is just a click of button, right? So this initial stages, this helped us a lot. But as we started growing, we realized like some of the services that are pre-built or predefined in this cloud were built for specific needs. It was good for startups. That is when what we did is we moved from those traditional, I won't say traditional, but a package service or managed services from this cloud to our own services, but still having all these capabilities that you're looking at, right? Especially when it comes to storage and the processing power.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you collect a lot of data and a lot of those business decisions within running the operations are based on data. So if you could talk about how are you leveraging data, AI, machine learning within your organization to power some of these services that you provide to your customers?
Okay, I'll start with a very simple thing, right? We are into sharing, right? Sharing services. Our vehicle, the intent is more and more people should be using the same vehicle, right? Not at any given point in time, but throughout the day, we want more and more people to touch our vehicles, right? And to make that happen, one important thing is the vehicle has to be available at the right place at the right time, right? So that to do that, sometimes we have to move our vehicles. In our world, what we call it as rebalance our vehicles, right? And when you're talking about rebalancing, there is a lot of cost that has to be incurred because you have to literally put this vehicle on some other vehicle and move it to or take it to that location, right? There's a cost involved for the moment, right? So to do that thing, you have to do a lot of data processing to understand which vehicle has to be moved, where, when, right? All these things have to be taken into account, and for that you have to analyze your data to tell which vehicle has to move, when it has to be moved, where it has to be moved, what time it has to move, and things like that, right? So there we leverage it. Second thing is our vehicles are battery driven, right? These are electric vehicles, right? Where the battery becomes a very critical component or the key component of the vehicle. If the battery is not there, no one can use the vehicle, right? So there you have to improve the efficiency of swapping these batteries. And I forgot to mention, our vehicles, we use a swapping method rather than charging a vehicle. Why we chose a swapping method compared to charging a vehicle is because if you have to take a vehicle to a charging station, there again, there's a cost involved in moving. Second thing is you need so much of real estate also to charge these vehicles at those locations, right? So we chose swapping because one, it will use less real estate. Second thing is you can, in using the same area, you can charge more batteries, right? So once your batteries are charged, you have to take these batteries from these swapping locations to these vehicles, right? And there also we use again an ML and AI to say where these charging stations should be first deployed or created. Second thing is how these movements have to happen. Again, what time, where, and things like that, right? Third thing is for improving the quality of our vehicles, improving the battery performance itself, we use again a lot of data analysis to see which batteries are degrading, how we can increase the life of the battery, how we can reduce the charging time, and how we can do a proactive maintenance of the vehicle so that the life of the vehicle increases. So these are some of the examples how we use data to improve not just on the efficiency side, also on improving the quality of the assets.
So it won't be wrong to say that the business would not have been so advanced had it not been for the cloud and the data AML capabilities that the cloud offers. Hence such business models are possible today.
True. That is very true. And again, with the technology improvements, like again, if you go 2 or 3 decades back when the internet was slow, we couldn't have run this service because our whole service is managed. I would say it is driven by the telemetry unit or the IoT that is deployed on the vehicle, which gives us a lot of intel about the state of the vehicle, right? Where the vehicle is, what is the condition of the vehicle, and things like that. Again, if there was no technological and advancements, this would not have been possible. Then it would run into a mode where it is being managed more in assisted fashion rather than an automated fashion.
And you collect so much data, Naveen, when it comes to IoT data, when it comes to location specific data, the consumer data, which is again the gold. So how do you manage data security and privacy? Because obviously, that's one of the core tenets of consumer driven organizations.
Yeah, that is true. Again, there are two types of data when you talk about, right? What I call it as PII, which is more of a personal information associated with the customer, and the second thing is more information related to our assets, battery or vehicle or things like that, right? Um, we would definitely like to share, right? Even if someone is taking it, we are okay. We would like to share the second information or the data that I was talking about, which is more related to location or battery or things like that, because that is going to help basically everyone who is working in this segment to improve the process, improve the quality of those things, right? Now, when it comes to the PII side, security is very important. And to be honest, we don't store a lot of PII information. The only information that we store related to a customer is their phone number, and their name, right? Which is nowadays very readily available. A lot of services are there in place where you can get this information. So, quote unquote, people can call this as a PII information. I personally don't treat that as a PII information, but since there are regulations in place, we we keep all this information secured. We encrypt the information. Me as a user or anyone within my organization as a user won't be able to see or look at that data. First of all, even if they want, until unless they have the secret keys to decode that information, first thing. Second thing is you still have to protect your data, right? And there again, I'll go back to the cloud services. They have started providing a lot of services to ensure if those services are used properly, the data can be secured. And we have leveraged, and time to time we basically conduct sessions, security sessions with the cloud providers to ensure that our systems are secure. First thing. Second thing is, if there are any new services, how we can leverage within our technology stack.
Makes sense. And one final question, Naveen. With almost every startup or enterprise organizations today, they are driving their own data initiatives, and there is a huge demand for cloud data, DevOps, automation professionals, full stack developers. How do you manage talent in such a scenario?
Very good question. There are certain. Okay, again, there is always a resource crunch, right? And it is a good problem to have for any company, right? That is how I see it, right? Now, but when you're looking at managing of the infrastructure or DevOps, right? Especially when it comes to DevOps, it's a very critical piece in any organization, because how you deploy your systems, right? Or how you make your releases could be very specific to the companies that are there in place, right? Right, and you would like to have a standard process that is set up by your own company, which is meeting your standards, as well as it is basically the your team is in agreement of those processes, right? So for that you need some DevOps person inside your or within your organization who can manage it, who can define these process. But when it comes to managed services, like managing your infrastructure, managing or maintaining your databases, managing your storage, there are a lot of external companies who have uh, created a, I would say, expertise in that segment or niche, right? And it is better to leverage them. And we have started doing that. To be honest, like our databases or the storage is managed by a third party. So their whole first thing is, when you're running a service, you need a 24 cross 7 support, right? And if you want to have every individual within the organization managing, maintaining these kind of things, you will need more than 3 or 4 people. If you go and look at these managed services option, you can, by spending less, you can get the same level of support, right? The only thing is you need to have that level of trust with that company that you're working with, and the company should agree to your policies and terms that you want to incorporate while you're doing this transaction or dealing, right? So this is how I look at it. Again, for data and other things, we are using a third-party managed service. For the infrastructure side of the world, again, we are using one. But when it comes to DevOps, it is solely managed by us.
It's a great strategy to have a specialist team manage on the support and ops side of the world, and having a core team of DevOps professional meeting the business requirements. Great. It's been great speaking to Naveen, and thanks for sharing all your insights with our viewers at the Economic Times Cloud Innovation Summit. It's really great speaking to you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Amit. You too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Dachuri, and thank you, Mr. Kumar. Dear delegates, coming up is yet another interesting story just for you. So see you there.